Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday at Namaste. Today is our silent Wednesday here at the community, and we invite all of you to, even for a little while today, just to take the opportunity to be still and to listen to that quiet voice that's always speaking to us. As we know, the ego always speaks first, but if we just hold still and listen, that voice of spirit is always speaking, if we would but have ears to hear. So this morning we're going to start off in, I think, a beautiful way. I'm with, of course, our dear sister Johannes, and we are going to be starting off with a meditation song. Most of you know the song, "The Peace of God is Shining in Me Now," and we are going to be using one line from this song for our meditation today, for our entire session actually. So I'll invite you just to breathe deeply and allow yourself to flow into this light, to know that the light and the peace of God is all there is, the peace that surpasses understanding, the light that illumines even the darkest places in our minds and everywhere we look. The peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now.
La paz de Dios
Peace of God
brilla en mí ahora.
is shining in me now.
La paz de Dios
Peace of God
brilla en mí
is
ahora.
shining in me now.
La paz de Dios
Peace of God
brilla en mí
is shining in me
ahora.
now.
La paz de Dios brilla en mí ahora.
Shining in me now.
La paz de Dios brilla en mí ahora.
Why would you wait for heaven when you were merely covering your eyes? It is there if you would but open now and realize you never left your home. Yeah, just realize that you are not alone. The peace of God
La paz de Dios
is shining in me now.
brilla en mí ahora.
The peace of God
La paz de Dios
is shining in me now. shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. Is shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. It's shining in me now.
La paz de Dios
It's shining in me now.
brilla en mí.
It's shining in me now. Let's just hold still for a moment and breathe deeply. Breathe that peace. Breathe in that light. It's shining right now. The peace of God is shining, shining, shining in me right now, this very moment. And we allow that shine, we allow that light, the peace that surpasses all understanding to completely take us today. To wash over us in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. To hold us in ways that are so intimate. To love us in ways that are so passionate. To shake us in ways that we wonder might be so uncomfortable, and yet they reveal the most comfortable place that we've ever known, which is heaven itself. We allow, we allow, we allow. I remember a number of years ago, it was the 50th anniversary of when Helen Schuckman began to scribe A Course in Miracles, and Vicky and me and Teddy in some cases and a few other people, we would travel all around doing these, what did we call them? They weren't celebrations. Vicky, what did we call them?
Tent revivals.
What were they?
Revive.
Revivals. We did tent revivals.
Yes, we did tent revivals because it was just so fun. And we always started off by singing that song, "The Peace of God is Shining in Me Now." And people would dance and they would move and they would sing, and you would feel the energy of that release. Feel the energy of that release. And the experience of the first line in the verse that we just sang, why would you wait for heaven, becomes a tangible reality. Why would you wait for heaven if you knew that that's what you were doing? If you realize that you were holding yourself back from heaven itself, why would you continue to do that? If you knew that for a fact, That all you needed to do is to open up your eyes and to see what has forever been seen and to know what has always been known. If you knew that, wouldn't you make the choice right now? Well, I'm telling you that that's all it takes. That's all it takes, is to open up your eyes and to see what has always been seen and to know what has always been known. What has always been seen? You, the truth of who you are. What has always been known? The light within you that can never change. We've tried to unknow the forever known, and it didn't work. Thank God it didn't work. Thank God I failed. I failed in the one ridiculous attempt to change the will of God. And here we are, realizing, experiencing, feeling that we are under no laws but God's, and that the peace of God is shining in each one of us right now.
And that stillness, that peace, what it brings is freedom. That's what I feel. Freedom from everything we have thought. Freedom from all the false beliefs that we have about ourselves, about the world, about everybody or anybody. Freedom. In that freedom, we embrace love, we embrace God, light, happiness. So it's a chain of wonderful events that happens in one instant at the same time. It's the acceptance of the peace that we are, because we are that peace. And allowing that peace to express through us. And then we feel free to know the truth, to dance in the dance of life in one instant.
So maybe we need a new revival. Maybe we need, we don't necessarily have to have a tent to do this. I remember Vicky has a rather big front yard, so we had a huge tent put up, one of those big circus tents, and we were all inside there just singing and dancing. But maybe we need a new kind of revival, which is a decision each one of us makes to be revived. That's all a revival is. We choose to be revived. If someone is being revived, it's because they stopped breathing, their heart stopped, and someone gets down there who knows what they're doing, and they revive them. And that's what the Holy Spirit is doing to us right now. We're being revived. Yes. Why would we resist that? All we need to do now is just to welcome that revival and to say yes. And next thing you know, we're breathing again. Next thing you know, our eyes are open again, and we see what has always been seen and know what has forever been known. It really is that simple. So Vicky, I'm going to start with you. We have lots of fun memories doing our revival in different places around the country. Anything you want to share around that?
Oh, Jimmy, it was a joy. When you called and wanted to do the workbook lessons and we said, okay, that lit off a fire in me that day. Just like when the pandemic started, I knew that was a new fire. That was a new part of this healing that was coming now into consciousness. But when you called to do the workbook lessons, that was the beginning of this time in my life where I knew that we were being all together called, and it was nothing but joyous. And to do it around the workbook, to help each other and help everyone we were sent to finish up the work, the inner work of looking at the obstacles to peace that needed to be released and celebrating by paying attention to the light. then those obstacles, those shadows show up much more quickly than if we're distracted among other things. But when we live in that light and the peace of God is shining in us now, anything that prevents that becomes very obvious quickly. So that year, not only did you do the workbook, and I know I've said this before, but 15 other brothers around the world did workbook lessons, and Teddy's among them. He did a wonderful series that were all broadcast, so that it was like everyone heard the call. Let's do the workbook. Let's clean up our act. Let's get rid of the projections and the repressions and the denials. And it was a year of celebrating it. And I do believe you are correct that we have entered a new revival time. It's a new revival time where we are gathered together just like we are here in Zoom and all over the world right now. We're gathered to welcome in the time of love, whether we call it the second coming, the time of light, the time of love. This is a new era in consciousness because it is a new era for us to have realized and rested into our own divinity, our own Christ mind. It's the time of Christ consciousness, living in the love that we are. And still, yes, every day we look at the shadows wherever they show up, because they will show up. We want them to show up. But instead of pursuing them and figuring them, we're grateful they show up. We thank God for them, put them on this very altar, and step back in freedom. Every day we've learned to move from process to shift. That's a big step that's happened in the past few years. And the revival that you started, Jimmy, in the Course in Miracles world or community has rung far and wide, and we've all been joined by brothers in every direction. And now we don't know the next steps we're to take. We only know the step we witness with one another and the joy that it brings. That every upset we see can simply be put upon an altar. That we live this simply. And that we are freed immediately. And that we continue on to listen and give and love and let everything stay so simple. So I thank you for the joy of it all. I thank you for the party. I thank you for the fun. And so does everyone I know. We all ended up in the party wherever we went. We ended up and we live in the joy of it this very day.
We are the party division, that is for sure.
We are the party division.
And you are the chief party planner.
Big party planner. Thank you, Jimmy.
Teddy, you were with us on at least a couple of those. Do you feel like today is the moment, the time for us to revive our revival?
Well, I've been thinking or feeling that there's something that's going to be happening, and I've been given some ideas, and I don't know how to put them together, especially in this time of COVID. But I do think that, in a sense, there is a revival coming, and there is a sort of greater joining coming, where more people will participate in the revival, and it's going to go out and literally around the world this time, based on the nature of the tools that we've been given to do this. And I think the fact that a lot of us have been directed to deal with our own stuff for a little while, and having dealt with our own stuff and really integrated the process, we are being brought back together with brothers in order to do this together, because the kingdom is entered 2 by 2, and I think that we're being put together with brothers in order to do this and to see the benefit. I was thinking when you were talking earlier, we read, I think in last night's group, the group that I'm involved in the evening, the guys from Australia, and it said, when the will of the Father and the will of the Son are in perfect accord, therein lies the kingdom of heaven. And, having understood that the kingdom of heaven is at hand and available, and seeing the world as the world is now, there would be nothing more than we wanted but the kingdom of heaven for all of our brothers. And that's the criteria for the kingdom of heaven to come. non-exclusion and total inclusion of all of our brothers. And I think that's at hand. And I think somehow something is going to come together to allow us all to participate in a new way and offer a demonstration to people of what's actually had occurred. And the practicality, this is the big thing. You know, when you first read the Course, a lot of it doesn't seem practical, but the practicality of forgiveness and the healing of our mind based on what we receive as an effect of doing that is become sort of, you know, known to many of us. And that really is the only answer to the situations we find ourselves in that seem to involve so many different things that are out of our control.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling that the greatest revivals are those that arise spontaneously. And this one feels like it is arising spontaneously. And this, I wasn't thinking about this earlier today. It just sort of came into my mind and suddenly there it was. And so maybe this is why we are here in this moment, is to allow that great soul revival to be revived in and as each one of us, and to then shine, shine, shine. You want to share something else?
The only thing we have to do is to release and let go the resistance. Just to let go of what we are holding, and then allow the peace of God to express through us. It's the resistance that we are holding. It says just let go and allow.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to feel that presence of God, the presence of peace, the presence of love, freedom.
That's the word we use a lot. Allow,
Freedom.
allow freedom.
Yes.
It's so
You know,
simple.
as above, so below, as within, so without. And what we're coming to within us is going to be demonstrated about us or around us simply because that's the way this whole thing works. And there's a reason for the demonstration. And the demonstration is to prove to us the truth and the reality of what it is we've been experiencing in our minds and hearts, and the making of space and time in the image of what's in our minds and hearts, so we could finally, once and for all, get that being the maker of the world, we can have a different world and unmake what we thought so as to return to the reality of our creation.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I think we're off to a good start. Here we go.
Yes.